Israeli police say a stabbing attack in Tel Aviv was an act of terrorism. Meanwhile, Israel has continued its attacks in Gaza, with new strikes reported in Khan Younis. It comes as people in the region prepare for the start of a 6-week ceasefire. Under the deal agreed between Israel and Hamas, fighting is to stop at 8:30 a.m. local time on Sunday.
With just hours until the ceasefire takes effect, Israel's attacks continue unabated. Children were among those killed in more than 50 strikes across Gaza on Friday and Saturday. Many hope Sunday's ceasefire will bring desperately needed relief.
Of course, I will be happy. I'm counting the minutes until I can go and see my loved ones, my friends, my neighbours. I want to visit the families of those who were killed and console them.
The pause in fighting will also allow aid to finally flow into Gaza. Up to 600 trucks a day are set to arrive through Egypt, and ambulances are on standby for urgent medical evacuations. Sunday also marks the first exchange of Palestinian prisoners and Israeli hostages. Around 1,900 prisoners will be released over the next 6 weeks, along with 33 hostages.
This deal comes too late for my son Guy, whose life will not be saved, but he can be brought back home to burial here. Our work is not done. We will not rest until every hostage is home.
Opinion polls show the majority of Israelis support the long-awaited deal.
And maybe this is the beginning of end of suffering for both sides, hopefully. That's what I hope.
Sorry that it happened far too late, but that's what it is. Hopefully to finish the war thing eventually.
The ceasefire is only the second pause in more than 15 months of fighting. But there's optimism on both sides that it could bring a permanent end to the war.
Let's go to our correspondent, Tania Krämer, who's standing by in Jerusalem for us. Tania, let's start with the latest developments, the stabbing in Tel Aviv. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, the emergency services here have said that that one person is in moderate to serious conditions. He received stabbing wounds in his upper body in central Tel Aviv. Now, the alleged assailant is a Palestinian, a young man, and he was shot dead by an armed civilian, a passerby at the scene of this attack. Now, police was searching the area, but they have said so far there's no indication that there's more than one attacker on scene.
Now, Tania, the ceasefire is supposed to start tomorrow morning. Stakes are high, but everybody is aware how fragile this agreement is. Do you think it will be a success?
Well, absolutely. I think everybody knows this is a very critical moment. It's a very complex agreement in several stages and phases, and we'll be seeing long stretches where, one element has to replace another, builds on another element that has to be achieved in this agreement. Now, we also just heard from the Prime Minister's office another statement tonight that the outline of this agreement will not proceed until the list with the names of the hostages is received. This is, what Israel is now waiting for, to get a list of those first hostages that should be released. So far, they haven't gotten this apparently from Hamas, but that comes also after a lot of delays in the political process here on the Israeli side. So what we are expecting still is that the fighting will stop, or the bombardments in Gaza will stop at 8:30 local time, and then there's a certain time also to give Hamas and the militant groups their time to basically get the hostages that they need for the release, then later in place. Basically, this is expected to be later in the afternoon, according to the timetable that is still in place right now. Then the hostages will be given most likely to the International Red Cross, and they will take them then depending on their condition. Should not forget they are now in captivity for almost 15 months, and they will be then brought to hospitals in Israel, also to be reunited with their families. At the same time, we will see Palestinian detainees from Israeli prisons released either to the occupied West Bank, also to East Jerusalem. Some might be deported or will be released into Gaza. So all of this, what people have said that are familiar with the details of this complex arrangement that we'll be seeing unfolding here in the next couple of hours and days, it's very complex and very fragile.
Now, the vote in the Israeli War Cabinet was far from unanimous and took longer than anticipated. How does that affect Benjamin Netanyahu's position?
Well, I think for now there's a sense that at least this first phase of the deal, that this at least, is supported, is also supported by most of the Israeli public, although we have also seen protests against it, because there's one major concern here is that it might not come to the second phase. And this is where this political crisis comes in. Now, we know that we just heard also tonight that the far-right Minister for National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, he has announced that he will resign on Sunday morning. They will tender in their letters of resignation from the government, but he has not the numbers alone to bring down the government. The other far-right minister, Bezalel Smotrich, he's the finance minister, he's also against this deal, but so far he will be staying within the government. So some commentators here have said, this is now a process to see. This is just the beginning, maybe, of more problems within this government and for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because we already heard Minister Smotrich is saying that he will not support the second phase of the deal. He wants to see Israel go back to fighting Hamas. So we have to wait how this will play out. But there's also another factor, of course, that's coming in the incoming president in the United States, Donald Trump, and we have to see what the relationship will be between the Israeli government and the new U.S. administration.
DW correspondent Tania Krämer there, reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you. The Israeli army says it intercepted several missiles launched by the Houthi rebels in Yemen, which are backed by Iran. The attacks sent people running to shelters in central and southern Israel. No injuries have been reported. The Houthis have launched multiple attacks on Israel over the past 15 months of war in Gaza. They say the strikes were in support of Hamas. Israel has also faced attacks from the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. A 60-day ceasefire has been in place between Israel and Hezbollah since November 27th. And we can now bring in Yossi Mekelberg. He's a senior consulting fellow with the Middle East and North Africa program at the think tank Chatham House. Now, you say the deal is only a first step. Are you confident that this will end the war, or do you see this conflict continuing because of a lack of a long-term solution?
Good evening. I'm not sure that, we'll go beyond phase one, and we see that even now there are some people that try to derail even phase one. We just had a statement from the finance minister in Israel, Bezalel Smotrich, that claims that the Prime Minister Netanyahu promised him that the war would continue, but by different means, and that Gaza will never be inhabited for Palestinians. So this is not a statement that tells us that if it's true that that's what Netanyahu promised, that there have any intention to move to phase two that should end the war, and even to implement phase one.
Now, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who are backed by Iran, fired a ballistic missile into Israel today. Even if Hamas and Israel honor the deal, so many actors are involved and could make or break the deal. Who do you see as a weak link there?
I think one of the things about the Houthis, actually, they said today that they will keep firing until the ceasefire actually enters or come into effect. It's an interesting. I think they are a bit late to this war, and their impact is quite marginal considering that Iran is not interested at this point. Hezbollah has suffered severe losses during the war, as Hamas agreed. At least this truce. It's not even a ceasefire. So we will see if they will continue just to make them still be noticed. But I think in all of this, we see a very fragile truce. Because of the nature of it, there is zero trust. We know that until, Trump entered into the fray, the sides were not prepared to make the necessary concession. We know that a very similar deal was on the table already in May, and that Netanyahu was not interested, also because of the pressure from the far right. So I think every step of the way between now and the end of the first phase and we ever get to the second phase, we need the international community to make sure that the sides adhere to what they agree.
Now, let's have a look at Gaza. The third stage of the deal, Gaza, is to be rebuilt. The Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, has said the Palestinian Authority is ready to take charge. Do you see that as a likely and successful future path for Gaza?
I think this is necessary, but that's the great challenge. The Palestinian Authority to reform itself, to make sure that it takes a different track. And at the end of the day, Gaza and the West Bank should be governed by the same Palestinian Authority. What we have seen for nearly 20 years didn't serve the Palestinians, I don't think served Israel, and it definitely didn't serve the cause of peace and coexistence. So this is an opportunity now, if the truce is kept and we end with a second and third phase, which the war is ending, is with the help of regional powers, we fund, an international fund to fund the reconstruction of Gaza, but in a way that there are the mechanisms and the processes in place that allowed the reconstruction of Gaza, not only in terms of infrastructure, but also of good governance and the institution with them.
Now, talking about opportunities, the region has seen a lot of upheaval. Hezbollah and Iran are weakened, the Hamas military wing almost destroyed, Syria's President Assad is out. Is now the right time, maybe a short window, to bring peace and stability to the whole region?
I think there are opportunities as much as there are dangers. It's not that Iran has disappeared, and it's still a major power. I think what we have learned in the last 15 months is, if we should not allow conflicts to fester. It's wrong to try to manage conflict. We need to look to the root causes and try to address them. And it's real need. And what you implied, I completely agree. I think we need a conversation within the region that will reduce tensions and look into opportunities. And hence the conversation, for instance, about expanding the Abraham Accord, engage with Iran about its nuclear and try to bring it into this conversation. At the same time, those that want to derail it, and the axis of resistance hasn't gone.
Yossi Mekelberg from the think tank Chatham House, thank you very much.
Thank you.